Thanks for listening to the Drummers Weekly Groovecast. You can contact the show at twitter.com/DW Groovecast and through Facebook at facebook.com/Drummers Weekly Groovecast.
Good evening.
I am warning you right now, if you touch my drums, I will stab you in the neck with a knife.
Ain't a boogie. Ain't a boogie.
Mom!
Take it easy. Lower it.
I'm not gonna lower it. I have to do this now.
I don't mind you playing it, but lower it.
Everything get straightened out?
No, we had a problem. I mean, we tried to do everything we could.
What do you mean?
Well, you know what I mean.
Next!
Little trouble there. You're rushing.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah!
Hey there, everybody. Phil here from the Groovecast. It's Interview Monday, and boy, do we have a good one for you this week. Before we jump into that, though, I would like to briefly recap our contest winners. For those of you who are not aware, we had a contest drawing last week where we had 2 grand prize winners, and the winners of the contest were Fire Tiger 91. He was the grand prize winner. And then we had our second prize winner, Travis on the drums. And for those of you, again, who are not aware of it, our contest was if you went over to iTunes and leave us a quick written review on our Drummers Weekly Groovecast homepage, you are automatically entered to win either a Peisty 20 Series 10-inch splash or a Gretsch Drums t-shirt. And so those were our respective winners of said prizes, and always stay tuned. We will be having more contests in the near future. So now let's go ahead and get into our interview for the day. The interviewee is the wonderful Sonny Emory. He lives in Atlanta, just like John and myself. And so he was gracious enough to come over to the house and sit down with us for a couple of hours. And we really talk nuts and bolts drumming, guys. You're really going to like this one. Much like our other interviews, we don't spend a lot of time on bio. We pretty much get into the very nuts and bolts of when he started playing and then start talking about education and then get into his storied professional career, where we spend a good amount of time talking about his tenure with Earth, Wind & Fire and his current gigs with Bruce Hornsby and Bette Midler. And we also spend a decent amount of time talking about his studio career as well, which encompasses a new project called Cachet that he is working with. So he details that in particular in the show and gives us some release dates when you guys can expect this new material from him. When we finished up the interview, I briefly spoke with him about some joiner music, some music that we like to put that kind of, we'll say, glues together the beginnings and the endings of the show. And he chose a couple of pieces of music that are very different from one another. The one we're going to hear in about 1 minute is a tune that he recorded back in the early 90s with the band Chic, and it is called Just a Groove. And that's really what it is. It's just good, solid, good feeling groove playing. Now, a lot of you drummers, though, that are especially into chops and good old-fashioned drumming pyrotechnics know that Sonny Emory's not going to let you down on that either. And to finish up the show, when we get to the other end of it, you're going to hear a live cut during his tenure with Earth, Wind & Fire, where he plays a drum solo at the end of Let's Groove. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and chat with Sonny Emory.
Just a groove, just a groove. Just a groove, baby, just a groove. Just a
You know, John, one of the things about living in Atlanta and working here, and of course doing this podcast from here, is we have a certain amount of drumming royalty that we can glean from with pretty much just a phone call or a text message.
I love that.
Isn't that nice, man?
Yep.
We're going through our list of guys that we got to have on the show. And today is no exception.
Top of my list.
I'm telling you, isn't it? It took a minute to get this guy here. He's been a little bit busy, and we're going to talk about that. But we would like to cordially welcome this guy to, as we like to call it, the Groovecast Nation. Our listeners have been wondering.
We're not really welcoming him. We're just making everybody envious.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We would be remiss, and our listeners have said, you guys live in Atlanta, so where has this guy been? Well, we've been trying to get him for a few months. He is now here in the Groovecast studios. Let's have a warm welcome for Sonny Emory.
What up?
Yeah.
Groovecast Nation. Yes.
Appreciate you taking the time, man.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure, man.
I have been excited beyond words, and here we are.
I've been looking forward to it too, man. I just, I think what you guys are doing, and it's great. It's great for the drummers of this, this region, and definitely the city of Atlanta. It's a pleasure to be. I'm just honored that you guys want me to be a part of it. And like I said earlier when we were just kind of chit chatting, man, the drumming community is like a fraternity.
No doubt.
And the brothers reach out to the brothers. It's just, it's that simple. So. Well, happy to be here.
Man, again, we're delighted. Let me say this. The Groovecast Nation reaches every continent on the planet. Okay. Well, except for Antarctica.
Yeah, right.
So no pressure, man.
Yeah, right.
I haven't heard from many North Koreans either.
Yeah.
I mean, so I just want to make sure, the real, sticklers don't call us out on that.
That you know what? I'll tell you what, point well taken. But, I'm hearing that our advertising is starting to reach Pyongyang. Yeah. Well, Sonny, like we talked about a few minutes ago before we got into this thing, before we hit record, man, we like to make this it's just loose and conversational, man. We like to have fun with this kind of stuff. And we don't do a whole lot with biographical stuff because since we're really talking to drummers, we want to talk nuts and bolts, man. And we also know that you're really big into the educational aspect.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we're going to spend some time on that as well.
Okay.
So to start off with, we will do just a brief bit of bio. And I think, again, a lot of our listeners, we like to task them and say, look, this guy's been around for a while. He's had done interviews before. There's a lot of bio on him. So do your homework.
Yeah, right.
So we'll talk a little bit about it, but we will jump into more of the performance thing and the educational thing fairly soon.
Cool.
Now, Sonny, we know that your dad was a musician. And he was the one that chiefly got you interested into playing drums. Was that right?
Most definitely.
Now, how old were you when he said to you, okay, look, man, this is going pretty well, but we need to get you started formally on some lessons?
Well, I actually started playing when I was 4 years old. And by him being an educator, it's like the initial thing for me was, just kind of education from day one. But the first thing that he put in my hand was a sax, because that was his instrument, and I didn't gravitate to it, but he had a set of bongos at the house, and I was always on those. And his musical prowess led him to peep the fact that maybe I needed some drums or percussion. So he finally bought me a kit, or got me a kit at age 5, and that's when it began. And then I was maybe 6 or 7 when I started studying kind of consistently with him as far as just the reading thing, because I was always, my dad taught every Saturday. He had private students every Saturday that would come to the house, and he would include me. I would just, I'd get out my little method book, and that's kind of the foundation of my reading and all that started then, along with listening to all the stuff that he was playing.
Did he know enough about technique, in other words, to be able to, when you put the sticks in your hands?
No, Dad. Well, he knew he knew traditional grip, and that's pretty much all Dad knew at that point, because most of the drummers that my father worked with were old school jazzers, you know what I mean? And most of them played traditional. Didn't know anything really about match grip at that point. And my dad had a limited knowledge of the rudimental side of playing the drums. But he knew that there were some fundamentals that I needed to get, so he turned me on to one of his friends, Marion Booker, and who's a legendary drummer here in Atlanta, old school drummer here, and started me kind of really concentrating on the rudiments with Marion, and so that Marion was the guy that really got me started on the rudiments,
So at this time, were you checking out drum set at all as well?
Oh yeah, I was playing drum set like almost every day.
And I'm assuming
and
I'm just kind of naturally.
Yeah, I'm kind of just naturally doing my thing, and Dad and I would jam in the living room, and he would break out his horn and just start playing some standards and kind of show me kind of what I should be doing, and we just jam. I actually have a picture of us doing that at home. My mom took it, and that was kind of like the normal thing for me. Just go hop on the kit, and I'd just be messing around. All of a sudden, Dad walk in the room with a sax and start playing, and
playing the records, all that.
Yeah,
awesome.
So I mean, and at that time, I mean, Dad was in the Coltrane, he was in the Miles, all the cats that were playing with those guys, Elvin.
Those were the early influences.
Yeah, exactly. Elvin, Tony Williams, Roy Haynes, Max Roach, Art Blakey. Those are, the staples of my early, development, basically.
Did Mr. Booker actually start you in any kind of formal drum methods? Any of like the big ones that we know of today, like Chapin or?
No, I didn't get to that until I hooked up with Jack Bell, which is many years later.
Which is where we want to go next, man.
Yeah,
now, for those folks that are listening to this that are not aware of who Sonny just talked about, there's a legendary educator that lived and played with the Atlanta Symphony for probably 25 or 30 years. He was also an instructor at Georgia State University. He is one of, in my opinion, one of the great percussion instructors ever.
Yeah.
And his name's Jack Bell. And so, Sonny, you had a chance to study with him prior to going to school there.
Yeah,
That's right.
After studying with Marion until I was maybe 12 or 13 years old, I was in high school at that point, and then my dad was working on his master's degree at Georgia State. He met Jack Bell there and decided that he should connect me with Jack. And I started studying with Jack Bell while I was in high school prior to even going to Georgia State. So I had maybe like 3 years with Jack before I got to Georgia State,
How tough was Jack on you?
Oh, God. Oh, man. You know what? I love him. I love him so much. But he is a stickler, man, and he has some of the best hands in the industry.
He absolutely
There's some
does.
video out there.
Man,
It's like,
period.
no one's going to do it better.
Yeah, and I have a funny story. That I was doing a drum camp here. I did like 3 years of a camp, right? So one year Jack was like one of my special educated guests, right? So I just turned the kids over to Jack and let him do his thing. I'm worn out, right? I've been doing all this administrative stuff with the camp, and so I just come in to see how it's going with Jack one morning, and he goes, "Yeah, so Sonny's gonna show you what I'm talking about." I go, "Oh Lord!" So there's this drill that we used to do at Georgia State that he used to put everybody through, where you had to do singles for 5 minutes at 208 on the metronome for 5 minutes solid. So that's like, pat, 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 and you got to hold that joint for 5 minutes, right? I hadn't done that since Georgia State, man. He put me so on the spot in front of all these kids. He's like, "Yeah, right now he's gonna do it. We're gonna time it." Brought the snare drum, put it right in front of me, and I'm sitting there and I'm like sweating. I made it, but I just barely made it because I hadn't warmed up or anything. But he used to just drive that home with us, man. And such a stickler about everything. I mean, I learned a lot about organizing myself as a player. From him, and staying true to your commitments and following through on just your commitment to the craft and what you need to do in order to make your performance the very best that it could possibly be.
So in that 5 minutes, did you run out of words you were calling him, names you were calling him?
I was just looking at him the whole time going,
yeah,
I'm going to get you. He was laughing, he was snarling, sitting over in the back snarling. But,
of course.
It's that kind of pressure he used to put us under every day at State. When I was in school there was only 13 majors, percussion majors, which was really great for us because Jack Bell, Bill Wilder, and Robbie Coleman were the percussion staff. Bill Wilder, excellent player too, great time on a drum kit, and just his whole concept was great. And Robbie Coleman was kind of like the modern guy that brought a lot of latest information and stuff. But between those three guys, we got a lot of attention because it was only 13 of us, Yeah. So that was really good, but I felt a lot of heat a lot of times,
But an advantage in that a lot of schools, like the real go-to teachers, you might not get
exactly.
as much time.
Exactly. And
so
I had scholarship
fantastic.
to Berkeley. I had a scholarship to North Texas. I had a scholarship to University of Michigan. My godfather had a relationship with the head of the department at University of Michigan.
Was it Udow? Mike Udow?
I've forgotten his name. Maybe it was, But I had an opportunity to go to these places, but when I got ready to go to school, by the time when I hit Georgia State, I was gigging 7 nights a week at Walter Mitty's. I don't know if you remember Walter Mitty's or not, but I was playing with Dan Wall, Oliver Wells, Ricky Keller, Howard Nicholson. I mean, these are like the premier jazz cats here in this city, and Jan Rico was doing that gig too. So we were kind of throwing that back and forth, but my point is, while at Georgia State, I was really busy working,
Which is a true education.
Yeah, exactly. I was working before I actually kind of started State. So when it came time for me to decide on a school, my dad was like, well, you have these opportunities, what do you think you're going to do? And I just said, well, I'm kind of working already, so I think I'm going to stay put.
It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and, I had already had a relationship with Jack.
And,
you
weren't compromising.
No, I wasn't compromising.
So
I didn't
great.
feel like I was compromising. I felt like I was getting everything I needed because, I had already been playing with my dad and been around his friends, all of those musicians. Growing up, it was nothing for Rasan Roland Kirk to come by my house. I don't know if you know who Duke Pearson is.
Sure,
Great
piano player.
Yeah, great friend of my dad. He would come by the house. I had those types of experiences. Frank Foster.
Sure.
So as a kid, I had a lot of input from giants already, and so it kind of I didn't feel like because I didn't go to Berkeley or North Texas that I missed out. I didn't feel like I missed out at all.
No, world-class education across the board in that scenario you just presented. Because Jack, especially, if you don't know him, you're not going to get any better.
Yeah, exactly. He gave me so much information. You know what I mean? And it's about what you do with the information after you get it. I tell so many of my students, I can give you all of this, but if you're not committed and take the time to really get into it and apply yourself to it, it doesn't matter where you go to school or where you get the information from.
One of the things that we've talked about on the show, because we've done a couple of dedicated shows about education, and one of the things that we talk about all the time is like, look, you can go to Berkeley, you can go to Eastman, you can go to New England Conservatory, you can go to North Texas, you can go to UGA. Music theory is music theory there.
Right, exactly.
Instrumentation, orchestration, it's the same. It's all taught the same way. It depends on what you're going to make out of it, because like I said, it's the kind of thing that, to me, if you go to Berkeley, if you go to any of these big schools, one of the main reasons you go is so you can network with the students that are there and the faculty that's there. That kind of thing. You can get the same great education at almost any state school.
Exactly. It's the networking that, to me, makes a difference on a school like, Berkeley or Miami. Because a lot of cats, who go to Berkeley or go to the University of Miami, these bigger schools, they get picked up by players that come through those schools quite often. And they get gigs and they start their careers, So I was just kind of fortunate. I got all the all I needed from the educational side, and then it opened up for me on the career side, actually through Georgia State, because I did a thing one year. Louis Belson and Ndugu Chancellor came to Georgia State to do like a Remo hands-on day. They were scheduled to come. Louis couldn't make it for some reason. So Jack went to Rick Drum and Remo Belly, said, "Hey, I got a student here who can play, who can take that slot, who can field, do the slot that Louis did." And so he recommended me to do that. And that put me right in front of the eyes of Remo Belly and Rick Drum. And that is how I established my relationship with Remo. And I've been a Remo endorsee since that was 84, 85.
Yeah.
So, it just, for me, I don't feel like I missed anything by going to Georgia State,
Well, one of the things that is blatantly obvious when anybody watches you play, man, your technique is spotless. And man, I was telling John, I've seen you play traditional grip quite a bit as well. Now, to take a quick step back and talk about like hands and technique and that kind of stuff, because that's another thing. Jack's technique is flawless whenever he plays.
Yeah.
Man, did he teach you out of all of the traditional like snare methods? Were you guys doing things like stick control?
Yeah.
Will Coxon?
Yep.
All that stuff.
We did stick control, the Podimsky method.
Book,
yeah, exactly. Charles Wilcoxon, 1 and 2.
Right.
And, with Jack, man, he gives you a lesson, right? And he expects you to come in the very next lesson and just blaze what he's given to you before you go to the next one. And if you don't, he'll put one review, that famous one review.
Yeah.
But we worked out all those method books, and then we did a lot of work with the variations of all the rudiments too that weren't on the printed page of the standard, rudiments. So the method books, Jim Chapin.
Yeah.
Did a lot of that, man. A lot of it.
What about like core stuff? Did you do some of that at this time?
A little bit. Yeah, because most of those guys, a lot of those guys, core guys were my classmates at Georgia State. John Lawless, Karen Hunt.
John lives a quarter of a mile from the road.
Does he? Yeah, right. So John was like, we'll be in the practice room just blowing chops all the time. So I think that would really help me too, being around those guys, and exactly, man. So technique that came from those methods and being with those core guys,
Was he mainly showing you traditional grip at that time? Or
Jack? Yeah, he was mainly showing traditional grip. Only time we did match grip with Jack was when we were doing the concert Podimsky method.
Gotcha.
I got into the match grip thumbs up timpani style from watching Cobham and Narda. And I went to a clinic that Billy did over at Atlanta Pro, and he kind of got into that whole method, how he got into it, and it just made a lot of sense for me playing wise. So I started to develop that little technique that I use to exercise fingers 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
To strengthen the hands for the match timpani grip.
And you're still there, right?
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah. Still doing that, and I still, the cats I play with now, they laugh at me because I still warm up 30, 45 minutes before the set. I travel with a real field pad, and I'm sitting in the dressing room just kind of going through things.
What do you do?
I just do a series of. I'm just at this point. What I'm doing is I'm working on fluidity of the vocabulary of rudiments, like being able to flow from one rudiment into the next without breaking it up. So what I'll do is I'll put on my headphones and I put on something like Cameo or Michelle Indigo cello, something with a really hard groove, and I'll just play rudiments against it. I'll start out with Flammecues, and just move and step my way through a variation of many different rudiments. And
but a seamless
Yeah, but
transition's a goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
But the goal is to not stop. Just try to make it seamless.
Cool. So then, in turn, concentration, everything that a successful gig is going to need.
Exactly.
It's really getting you in that
exactly.
Place. That's
and
awesome.
To be able to blow, like when you're soloing, to be able to blow and to flow from one idea to the next seamlessly.
Your brain is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And if you can, and what I find is a lot of cats can play rudiments, but then when you put that metronome on, well, now can you play these rudiments in time?
Yeah.
Okay, you can play just that rudiment in time, but now can you play this one, go into this one, and stay in time, and go from this one to the next one in time, which is, something I've been just constantly working on.
And that's something Jack would stress.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like like tapestry. Yeah. You want your thoughts to flow. And my dad was a big proponent of phrasing. He used to tell me. I mean, he wanted me to listen to the drummers, but he was like, of course, you need to listen to Coltrane, listen to Miles, listen to Clifford Brown, listen to Michael Brecker, man. How they're phrasing. You can take that concept and put it behind the drums, and make music behind the drums, and not just blow chops every time it's an opportunity to play.
Right on. That sets
a lot of cats,
aliens apart from us mortals. But no, seriously, man,
it's a concept.
At the end of the day, it's still about music before anything, and that's what people are hiring you because you're musical, not just because there's a million guys who could sit down and play things that'll blow your mind.
Yeah, that's true.
But the application musically is a whole different story.
Exactly, and that's been. I mean, it's. When you're working with somebody like a Bette Midler, who I've been, in her band for 20 plus years now, she's not looking for me to blow any chops at all. I never get a chance to blow with her. She wants that groove to feel good behind her. She wants the music to feel good behind her. Yeah, and to play what's appropriate. So a lot of guys get it twisted. They feel like they can get on the gig and blow whatever they want to, but sometimes it's just not appropriate. Your number one responsibility as a drummer is to make music, number one. Second responsibility is to keep time. And then everything else to me comes after that.
Yeah. So Sonny, just to button up Georgia State really quickly, you were a performance major when you were there. How did you feel about, and did you enjoy having to learn all the other percussion instruments like percussion keyboards and timpani and all that stuff?
Yeah, I was a kind of a dual major, performance, jazz, and classical major.
Okay.
And right now I really appreciate having been put through that, because I play vibes and everything, and then I hated it. Yeah. My dad bought me a set of vibes, and I didn't touch them much, but we had juries that we had to do. And Jack, being the consummate melodic percussionist that he is, he plays the xylophone and vibes just ridiculous and reads fly and shit, So he put all that pressure on me to get that part of my musicality together. And it challenged me in different ways, It made me think about the drum set differently too. And so, timpani was fun. Vibes and marimba, but I'm really happy that I went through that whole thing, as far as especially the classical side. I remember we had to do analyzation of symphonies, which helped me to really hone in my skills as far as song analyzation and song forms, and remembering, knowing the song as a drummer is a very important thing. And so those skills that I kind of developed doing that classical analyzation just kind of rolled over to me being able to retain song forms a lot easier.
Yeah, so just in kind of piggybacking on that, then you didn't mind the class work then either, right?
No,
theory,
I mean, I was
training.
like any other student at that point. It was I did it. I wasn't necessarily enjoying it.
Yeah,
obligation. I was doing it because it's a school and this is part of what I had to do. I mean, I have a total appreciation for it. I'm happy that I was put through it. And because I'm a different musician because of it. But at the time, you're a college student, man. I just want to go out and play.
Yeah.
And during the time I was at Georgia State, I was gigging with Cameo too. So, you know, I was having a little taste of the real deal with the screaming fans and that whole deal.
Yeah.
Screaming leader.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. Oh God, that's a whole nother camp, dude.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just that thing. You know, I'd rather be on the stage with Cameo than in Dr. Knox's analyzation class.
At 19 years old,
Right.
really?
Well, you know, it's funny also because one of the things that I always tell students also about school is I always say, look, make sure that you really get into as many different ensembles, playing ensembles as you can. Sonny's playing ensembles Cameo.
How about that?
But I was doing wind ensemble.
Sure.
You know, I was doing percussion ensemble.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and Jack was like, I mean, you know, like on top of all your classwork, you had to have your parts ready for percussion ensemble. Then you had to have your lessons ready for the applied study stuff. You know, so it was just constantly heaped on me, just information and spit it out, learn it, spit it out, learn it, spit it out. So, you know, that's what school is supposed to do. It's supposed to put you through the ringer. It prepares you for what you have to do down the line.
So preparing you, have you had opportunity to use some of that more legit stuff?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Just here and there?
A couple of times. But yeah.
Capable,
Yeah, exactly.
which is awesome.
I see the legit influence more so in how it has influenced and helped me out, say, in a situation. Like one day, we were in a Bette Midler rehearsal, and Arif Mardin walks in with this killer chart for us to, and I looked at it, and I'm looking at, and there was an xylophone part in the intro that he wanted covered. You know, and I was able to do it. You know, I was able to do it. Luckily, you know, and it was a short passage, but I was still able to do it. So, it's I mean, you know, and you just never know when those situations are going to come up. You don't want to fall flat on your face with a producer like Arif Mardin standing there.
Yeah,
you know, and so
served you well. No
yeah,
doubt.
exactly, man. So you know, and then on Bet's gig, we do a lot of reading because she'll come in and she'll have like maybe 10 charts. We'll rehearse for like 3 months before we go on the road. So some of the days she has a table like this. She has all these charts, and she's trying to figure out what songs she wants to do, but she wants to hear them all. She wants the band, and we're in front of her. She passes this one out, you know, and we sight read it, play through it. You got to be able to play through it. So your sight reading has to be up, you know, and
this could be one you did 15 years ago, and she'll just pull it out. And
or one that I've never even done before.
New stuff.
I mean, she comes in, with, you know, because she has a library of just, you know, she pulls from everything, Broadway tunes, modern tunes.
Really broad.
Yeah, top 40 stuff. I mean, she just a really wide range of tunes. But the reading aspect of her gig is like really important because she wants to get through a certain amount of tunes in a day, you know, so she can make up her mind about what it is she wants to do. You know, and then even once she decides, she's changing them. So the MD is going, okay, man, you got to put a coda at blah, blah, blah. We'll go back to the DS here. And if you don't know that language, you lost.
Right.
You know, so.
Well, there's a perfect example, too, of a gig. Like so many people that we know and we've come across might be like, oh, Bette Midler, whatever. Look at how attractive is that in that broad styles, reading, challenge, stickler.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And that's
she,
a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah,
that can
she
be
doesn't play, man. She's like, I mean, you know, we've become really good friends over the years, and you know, I tell her all the time, thank you for, you know, putting that heat on us every day when you walk in here, because you know you got to rise to the occasion. When she walks in the room, you got to play it right, and she'll call you out. She will definitely call you out. I mean, you know, hey, play that guitar part for me at letter B. And she may not know exactly what it's supposed to be.
But she knows if it's not right.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, I just kind of appreciate, you know, her, you know, doing that because it keeps the band on our toes.
So, Sonny, going back to the Cameo gig for a second, you were playing with those guys while you were still at GSU. How did you end up with that gig?
One night, myself, Pat Buchanan, Vance Taylor, and Ronnie Garrett, we used to have a group called RSVP. And there used to be an old venue here called the Moonshadow Saloon, great room. Everybody used to play that room. Jeff Lorber used to come through and play that room, and a whole bunch of folks. So one night we were opening. My group was opening for Kenny G, RSVP, and Larry walked in, came to the show, and he heard me that night, and that's kind of how it happened. And then I got the call soon thereafter because he was checking out Sam too. Sam had already been kind of doing a few rehearsals with them.
Yeah.
And so that's how it happened. So I got the call, and then I started doing like the Weekend Warrior thing with them.
Right.
You know.
So well, that worked out really well though, man. Because I mean, you go back to school.
Yeah, for a little while it did.
Yeah.
And then summer came around, and I was in summer school, and Larry asked me to do this tour, and I went home and I just kind of begged my parents, please let me do this tour. I wanted to, because initially my parents were like, no, you're in school, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
You know. And I was like, please let me do it. So they finally, okay, you keep your grades up, you can do it, right? Trying to study on a tour bus.
Yeah.
You got girls coming in and out of that thing, you know, guys, it's just all kinds of mayhem. And I'm trying to study, and it didn't work out. You know, that quarter was a horrible quarter for me, you know.
Yeah.
I made a D and an F. Yeah. You know, it just didn't work, you know. So but musically, I learned a lot, you know. You know, Larry wrote me like Secretariat.
I was going to say, do you have a good Larry Blackmon story to tell us?
Right?
Yeah. One night we were here.
I mean, we're talking a lot of guys we know that are monsters.
Oh, yeah.
And every one of them's like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, he first of all, let me say, he can play, right. And I respect Larry. Larry's a great musician. You know, he does what he does. And so we were in Denver. This is like one of the first weekends that I started hitting with him, right? So we're in Denver. Okay, now you know what the altitude is like already in Denver, right? So we're playing, and we start the show, and I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there, you know, and we get into like the second, third song, and I just start peeing out, man. And so I start asking for water, just like, you know, every other minute. So Larry turns around, he sees the tech is just giving me water after water. After a while, he turns around, he looks at the tech, he's like, no more water for him. God, no more water. Don't. And I go, oh God. So I had to just suck it up, man. He's like, pay attention, stay focused. Stay focused. You need to stay focused.
Hey, man, people who don't know.
Oh, yeah.
And I've done gigs in Colorado where I felt fine.
Yeah.
And I've done gigs in Colorado where I'm like, I was in a fight with Muhammad Ali for 12 rounds.
Exactly.
But you know, physically,
exactly. But it taught me
rough.
a valuable lesson. It's like, you know, playing drums. That was the first time that it really dawned on me that what I do, it's just like being an athlete. I need to train for this, you know, especially if we're going to be going into places like Denver, Colorado, where, you know, the altitude will bother you just walking around, and you're doing something really strenuous, man. So I learned a lot. You know?
But there's also that, you know, adrenaline. We're talking about another level here.
Exactly.
So you're young, and you're like,
I'm young. I'm hyped up. The crowd is like, you know, and Larry's like looking at me, and you know, I'm nervous.
You got to figure it out.
Yeah, you got to figure it out, man. So, and that was a funny one, man. No more water for him. Cut him off. You know, I was like, oh God.
I was telling Phil about when I met Larry. It was he went on about AC/DC for like 15 minutes.
Did he really?
Like,
did he really? Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
He was like, he was in that mode that day. It's so funny.
But
he's an entertaining guy.
He used to come and stand right in front of the drums, right? And if it didn't feel right to him, he'd be doing this, you know.
Yeah.
And until you locked it where he wanted it, he was gonna stand right there. He would take himself out of the choreography. You know, Tommy and other guys he'd come back and stand right in front of the drums, and until as soon as you got it locked in to where he wanted it, he'd go back out and do his thing. But you know, he was a stickler, man. It was a learning experience.
That's what I was going to say. If nothing else, man, on something like that, man. I mean, you know, we've said a million times on this show, you learn a lot from every situation, even if it's sometimes what not to do.
Right? Exactly.
I look at it like, your grades might have suffered, but man, you got an A+ if you got through Larry's grade.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you know,
there's a lot to be said for that.
It really tightened up my my groove playing, you know, and it got me ready for that big arena thing, you know. Got me ready for the Earth, Wind and Fire thing. But the show was like 2.5 hours long, and I was like pumping from beat one to the end of it, you know.
Plus the wardrobe, man, didn't hurt either, man.
Yeah. So,
do you have a cod piece?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I caught some of it. I kept some of it. You know what I mean? I kept some of the stuff. Yeah.
Perks of the gig, right?
Yeah. I even have some of Maurice's stuff.
That's cool,
he just
man.
gave me. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know. So it's you know it's all a learning experience, man.
So Sonny, after that gig, man, you went through a period of time where you kind of went through like a fusion route, man. You had a gig with Jean-Luc Ponty.
Yeah.
And then it went over. I know you did some work with Sanborn, of course, as well. And who else? Joe Sample.
Joe Sample, right.
Stuff with
and the
Joe
Crusaders.
as well.
Yep, exactly.
It's kind of funny, man.
And Al Jarreau.
Yeah, that kind
period.
of stuff. Did it all kind of weave together a little bit?
Yeah, it did. And Lee Ritenour, too. I mean, that all just kind of snowballed after, let's see, a Cameo. Then it was Jean-Luc. And then I got the gig with the Crusaders with Joe. And by the time I got the gig with the Crusaders, that's the gig that took me to L.A. in '86. I moved to L.A. in the summer of '86. We weren't touring right away. We had 3 albums to do. So we were in the studio with the Crusaders. We did a Crusaders album. We did a solo Joe Sample album. We did a solo Wilton Felder album. So I was pretty much hunkered down in the studio during that time. But I was in L.A. every day. I was out hanging out every night. And that's when I had that experience with Jeff and Pocaro and at the Baked Potato. And
so throughout those, there's kind of a thread of players and producers and that kind of
exactly.
And it just
exactly. And that's when I got to LA. That's when I met Ritenour before I actually moved. So when I got there, I reconnected with him. He started using me, and then the David Sanborn camp was managed by Pat Raines, who also managed Al Jarreau. So that was kind of a cross, relationship type of deal there. And I started working with Al some, started touring with him a bit, and Ritenour and all that stuff was kind of going on at the same time. Earth, Wind and Fire kicked off for me in '87. So what I was doing is I was doing, the Earth, Wind and Fire gig, and then on the downtime, I would do Ritenour or Jarreau or, some of those other, and Joe too, for that fact.
Man, what were the biggest differences between doing something like, you had Larry's gig, you had Cameo, and then all of a sudden, you're working with Jean-Luc Ponty and Joe Sample and those guys. Naturally, we know the playing is different.
Yeah.
But what about just personality-wise, rehearsal-wise, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Because everybody knows, if you work with jazz or fusion guys, it's very different working with them the majority of the time than it is working with pop, and rock and funk guys.
Well, yeah, it's really different. I mean, Joe was such a stickler about just, being expressive on the gig. He definitely didn't want you to play that gig the way I played Cameo. He don't want you to sit back there and just hold pocket all night. He wants you to open up and express with him, And so you have to definitely put on a different hat when it came to Joe Sample. And then Jean-Luc was kind of the same way, but Jean-Luc was more kind of like down the middle for me, because Jean-Luc really liked to sit in the pocket for a while, but then he his tunes, and when he starts to solo, he really wants it to open up and blossom like a flower. So the personalities are all totally different, though. Totally different. Jean-Luc was probably the most passive out of those two.
Right.
Joe was really, really aggressive.
Yeah.
Really aggressive. And when he got pissed off, he got pissed off. The first gig I did with Joe was at Concerts by the Sea venue in L.A. And so we get to the gig, and I'm setting up and get ready to do the first set, and I walk in, and there's like Harvey Mason's there, Rayford Griffin, Michael White, just Alvino Bennett, just all the Ricky Lawson.
Bunch of hacks.
Oh, man, it's just like I'm going, really? So they're there, right? I'm nervous as all get out. You know, so we start playing. We play the first set, and I do exactly what Joe didn't want me to do. I'm just playing safe. I'm staying at home. I'm just, just playing safe. He looked at me on the break. Come here. Go back to the dressing room, and I was sitting down, and he got right over me. I didn't bring you out here to play like all these other clowns out here. Play that shit.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he said. He screamed that shit in my face. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. So the next set, I went out, I played everything I knew how to play. I just opened it, and then he kept, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So it went from a seriously intimidating situation to one where I was like, okay, I got it. I got it,
So that green light,
yeah.
Your instincts were right though, to not just be like,
yeah,
I'm here, LA.
Yeah.
And then you were given the
right, to go ahead. Yeah,
that's a better approach than the opposite, I think.
Well, and the other thing is Joe told you exactly. There was no mince in words.
Exactly.
And so you didn't have to read his mind.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just a little disappointed in myself because we had been rehearsing, and the rehearsals were great, and I felt nice and loose. But as soon as I got there and saw all of those cats, man, I just shut down momentarily. I was just like, I was thinking more about them than what Joe wanted, and that was a beginning mistake. You know what I mean? Understood. You should always keep your mind and focus on what you are there to do for the artist that you're playing with, and that's something that's a real valuable lesson that I learned.
Nonetheless, I'm kind of shaking just thinking about it. I wouldn't even know it.
I mean, it's like you're new in town. People have started hearing about my name, and so all these cats came out to check it out. And when it's like
on
that,
the same day,
it's right. It's like, oh wow, this is one of those defining moments again where if I choke, the word's gonna be out that it's not happening. You know what I mean? You don't want to do that. So. Once again, but you're right. Joe took all the guesswork out of it.
Yeah.
He made sure I knew exactly what he wanted.
So, man, you played with those guys, and then you mentioned that somewhere in the mix, Maurice White got in touch with you from Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
That actually started, well, my relationship with Philip was the very first that I had any tie to Earth, Wind, and Fire. That was the first tie. That came through a friend of mine, Oliver Wells, who was working here in town. I did a lot of recording with Oliver. Oliver was actually writing for Philip's gospel project, and Oliver played some tracks that I had done for him. Philip heard me on those tracks and was like, wow, who is the drummer, man? So that was one connection. Joe Sample and Maurice were good friends. Joe had been talking to Maurice about me. And when I got to L.A., Maurice said he had started hearing my name, in the mix. So that kind of came together simultaneously. When they were looking for a drummer, Philip told Maurice about me, and Maurice was like, yeah, I've been hearing about him, and blah, blah, blah. And so I was actually on the road with David Sanborn, and Sam and I were roommates in L.A., and I would call home every day. These are the days of the answering service machines, right? I call home, hey Sam, what's up, man? Any messages for me? And we used to mess with each other all the time. He's like, yeah, man, Quincy called you today. Blah, blah, blah. Michael Jackson called you today. It's like, oh, shut up. So one day I call home, and I'm on the road, I'm touring with David Sanborn. I'm sitting in my hotel room. I call home, and I get my messages, and he goes, hey, man, Philip Bailey called you. And I go,
yeah, right.
Yeah, man. Okay, cool. He's like, no, man, really? So he plays the message for me, and it was Philip. And so I got the number, and I called Philip back, and dial the number, and Philip picks up the phone. He says, hello. I say, Philip, hey man, this is Sonny Emory. How you doing? He was like, yeah, man, how you doing? He's like, I was just talking to Maurice, and we were just wondering if you'd like to join Earth, Wind, and Fire.
No audition.
No audition.
Wow. That's amazing.
Was this there was a little period of time when Earth, Wind, and Fire, they were not really formed. Was this kind of like a reformation of them?
This was the hiatus period for them.
Yeah.
And this is prior to the release of Touch the World,
right?
Which is the album that began the second phase of Earth, Wind, and Fire, right? And
the resurgence.
Because they took a hiatus from 85, and this was like the fall of 87 when we began rehearsing for the Touch the World 88 tour. And so, and I said, Philip, I'd love to do it, man. And so he said, well, look, we're going to start rehearsing. I think we was going to start rehearsing September 1, and Sanborn's tour was supposed to go to the middle of September. And my mother had always told me, always honor your word. Don't cancel on anybody. Don't pull out. Just honor your word. I was like, Philip, I got a slight problem. I said, hey, man, I'm on the road right now with David Sanborn. I'm not done until I gave him the date, September 15th or whatever it was, right? And he was like, okay, check this out. Let me call you. I'll call you back. Let me talk to Maurice. So he hung up the phone. I jumped straight on my knees.
Yeah.
Praying it'll work out. So he called me right back, man, in about 10 minutes. He said, yeah, I just talked to Maurice. We're going to push the rehearsals back, and just start when you get back. So I was like, thank you, Lord. Thank you. So,
that's amazing, man. Were they based out of L.A.?
Yeah, they were in L.A. Yeah, they were in L.A. And then sometime after I'd been in the band for like maybe 2 or 3 years, Maurice and I were just sitting at dinner one night, and I said, hey, man, I'm just curious. I said, why did you, out of all the cats, in L.A., why did you choose me for the gig? He was like, you were sent to me. I didn't choose you. Being that metaphysical, what's the word for it? Just spiritual guru that he was, you know what I mean? He was like, you were sent, you were meant to do this gig. So,
man, from a pure drummer's standpoint, did he ever sit down behind the kit with you and go, look, man, let's try this, do this way? Because for those who don't know, he's a tremendous player.
Yeah, he's a great player. He would sit down. I would come in after we were set up and rehearsing. Yeah. I would come in and he'd be sitting behind my kit, just playing, just messing around. He never sat down and told me how to do anything specific or anything like that. Yeah. Maurice's method of rehearsing the band was he would pull up a chair right in front of the kick, bring the bass player in close, Verdine in close, guitars in close, keyboards in close. We'd be just in a little tight-knit circle, and we play through everything in a really low volume. We'd just tip through everything, really low volume. And what he's doing is checking for parts, making sure that the parts are all in place. We did that for maybe 2 weeks. We went through the entire show, just like that, with him with a microphone, no vocals, anything, just playing down the songs really softly, and but he never, he would tell me specific things once we got going. Like Maurice's big thing was he would throw us a curve once every day just to keep us on our toes. We're going to change this right here. Just to keep everybody fresh, keep you awake. And we were rehearsing in sound check, So if it was something specific he wanted me to do, he would tell me then. But he never really sat behind the kit, We would jam sometimes though. Because he had his timbali set up, and we would just go at it sometimes,
So man, when they gave you that call and they said, "Hey, no audition. This is your gig if you want it." Did they actually? Were you a member, like a full-fledged member of the band?
I was after about a year. About midway through the first year of the tour, the first tour was 18 months long.
Yeah.
And so about midway through that, Maurice said, hey, man, I want to make you a member of the band. And he just came, and we were in the studio. I remember we were in the studio one day, and he just walked in, and he said, hey, man, this afternoon I want you to call Art, because Art was his business guy. He said, call Art, got a new deal for you. I was like, oh, cool. I had no idea what it was, and I got off the phone with Art. I was like, yes. Amazing. So, it was sweet, man. That's what I mean. He really took care of me, man. He really did. Took care of me,
I was going to say the emotions, man, of that.
Yeah.
One of the, if not the greatest funk horn band of all time.
Yeah.
Now you're a member.
Yeah. I was a member of the band, and that was really amazing. And then on top of that, after that happened, then after we finished the tour, Maurice goes, I know you want to do an album. He said, I have 2 artists that I'm gonna do on Kalimba prior to doing your record. We're gonna do a record on you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, cool. So that was like really my first solo project, Hypnofunk, which was produced by him, which came out in '96 as an import.
Yeah.
You know, and only came out in Japan, you know. But that whole period, like writing and preparing for Hypnofunk, I learned a lot from him. He sent me back to the drum board so many times, man. I think I wrote maybe 40 songs before he decided on the 12 for the album, mm-hmm. you know. And that was a really an intense period for me because my wife was pregnant with my second child. I was writing every day, recording every day, and still touring with Earth, Wind & Fire in the breaks. We were recording in the breaks of the
mm-hmm.
tour, you know. So I'd write these batch of songs with cats, and then Maurice would be like, okay, what you got, man? We're getting ready to leave on the road. I need to hear what you got. So I'd give them to him. He'd go, okay, I like this one, this one, this one. No, we don't want any of these. Yeah. You go back to the drawing board. You know what I mean? So he just kept sending me back until he felt like we had a solid project. You know, which is good for me. You know, I just needed to understand that whole process.
Sounds like it was a true mentorship as
yeah,
well.
Exactly, it was.
You know, especially when you're doing your first record, having somebody that can kind of guide you along the way that's had that much success.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and so you know, I learned a lot, and he really gave me a lot, man. You know.
So, Sonny, how long in total were you with Maurice?
13 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And how did it finally come to an end?
I got into a point where, as great as those songs were, I just wanted to really play something else.
Yeah.
You know, I gotten a call from Frankie Beverly, so I started doing Maze in between some of the Earth, Wind & Fire
mm-hmm.
Things. Now, at this time, Maurice had retired from the band.
Yeah.
Because my last 3 or 4 years, he wasn't with us on the road. And
did that change the dynamic?
Yeah, it definitely changed the dynamic because Philip is a great leader, but he's a different type of leader than Maurice was. And at that time, I just felt like, okay, if I don't start to do something different here, I'm going to be pigeonholed into this thing, you know, because that happens in this industry so often that cats, they just get pigeonholed. They really can do other things, but that gig that they've been doing so long has defined them, you know. So I just wanted to kind of break free of it. So we just kind of decided, you know, I decided I wanted to just kind of move on, you know, and do something different, you know. And that was basically it, you know.
And then since then, man, you've had a couple of again, long-term relationships
mm-hmm.
with some folks. You've had a long-term relationship. You've already mentioned with Bette Midler,
mm-hmm.
and then also with Bruce Hornsby as
mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
How did those come right after EWF? Or?
Yeah, Bruce came. It was the very next thing that I think I was off for I took maybe 2-3 months off before I got the call from Bruce, and once again, I'm thrown into the fire of learning. Like, I mean, he has a songbook of 150 songs.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, we don't have any set lists with Bruce, which is totally different than Earth, Wind & Fire. He just comes, sits down at the piano, starts to play, and you got to know where you are, and you got to know what the song is. And as a matter of fact, my wife was kind of laughing at me. She's like, I've never seen you be in this mode like this, you know, learning every day. I was walking around the house with headphones on, making little charts for myself,
mm-hmm.
you know, because I had a lot of stuff to get under my belt with Bruce, you know, because he pulls from every genre known to man, you know. He does his stuff. He'll jump into some standards. He likes bluegrass. He likes pop stuff. He likes funk. He likes classical stuff.
The whole jam.
Exactly. So he's all over the musical map, you know, and which in essence makes his gig really almost like a jazz gig because it's improvisational. It's loose, you know, and he likes to keep it like that to keep the boredom out of it. So that's the way he rolls. And I've been in the band now for 17 years, and I love it. It's cool.
Yeah, his background, he was down there at Miami with
Pat
Metheny and Gottlieb and those guys, Steve Morris.
Exactly.
He was down there with those guys. So he comes by that honestly, doesn't he?
So we talked about that, because, you know, the Dregs
Right.
Rod Morgan's Rod and Steve and those guys were there at school with him. So when I met him, he was like, "Yeah, man." And T. Lavish, T.
Right.
Yeah. So that whole thing that
Miami
was
had a hell of a run at that time.
man. So that was like a serious connection for us, And Bruce, is one of those bosses that, like I said, he's takes great care of me, man. And it's really cool when cats really appreciate what you bring to the table, and they show you, So, and Bruce has always been like that with any of us, It's not Bruce and the band with him,
right?
Bruce is like, if I'm gonna travel in the limo, the band's gonna travel in the limo. If I'm gonna stay in the 5-star hotel, the band's gonna stay there. We've never been separated from Bruce. You know what I mean? And it's always been, he's always been one of the cats, one of the guys.
The Bruce and Bet gigs, are those still ongoing as far as like where you guys?
Yeah, I mean, right now, Midler is off because she's on Broadway right now. She's doing Hello Dolly, so she decided to take some time off. But I just toured with her like not last year, year before last. We did a 6-month run.
Have you come across conflicts with those two?
Yeah, I came across a conflict during that tour. Bruce didn't quite know what he wanted to do when we finished the tour before Bet's. And so Bet called me. I said, "Yep, I'm good. I'm in." And see, once I say that to an artist, that's it. It's a wrap. I can't do anything. And then Bruce called me back. "Hey, man, we want to go out." I was like, I've already told Bet I was going to do this thing. So I had to. So he got a sub.
Who was it?
Moyes Lucas, and
I've heard that name.
Yeah, Moyes, and Moyes did a great job, and so after that tour with Bet, she decided she wanted to go and do Broadway, and then Bruce works all the time, so I just went right back into Bruce's situation, which was cool, So
yeah. So, Sonny, we were just talking prior to hitting record that. You're working on a new project. You got a new group together.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons it kind of pushed our interview back a couple of months, is because you were actively mixing a project.
Right.
Tell the folks what you got going on.
Okay, the new band is Cachet, and that stands for Mark of Distinction.
Yep.
And it's a funk R&B ensemble, and primarily doing just commercial, feel-good, funky songs with conscious, uplifting lyrics. I wanted to make sure that that the whole message of the band was positive, and my kids are heavily involved in the band. Nigel Emory is a rapper. He's my oldest kid, and Nicholas Emory is involved. He's a vocalist. He sung lead on several of the tracks, doing some singing. I produced the whole thing. Nigel, my oldest son, mixed it. We mixed it together. Then Stephanie Payton, who lives here, who's my female vocalist, and then Sam Sims is in the band. I played most of the keys on the project, but Phil Davis is going to be playing live with us, and then there's Kevin Walker, Kev Dog, my boy, on guitar, and so it's a hot situation, We have an album coming out on Universal. October 10th is the release date, worldwide release, digital release. And so you just keep an eye out for it. And then you can go to SonnyEmory-Cachet.com.
SonnyEmory-Cachet.com.
Yeah.
Cool.
And what about live dates? Anything lined up?
Not yet. There will be something coming up soon, though. And they'll be posted on the website. And so there's going to be a serious campaign coming pretty soon prior to the release.
We'll keep our folks apprised of that as well. Hopefully you'll have some kind of a CD release here in town.
Yeah, we will be doing a CD release party here in town. I think we're going to aim to do that at the City Winery.
Oh, yeah. Good venue.
Yeah, and so keep you posted on that one as well. Awesome. We're going to have some special guests that night, too. So
good deal.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that our listeners love to a fault is, man, they like to talk gear. Oh, okay. My God, they like to talk gear, and they like to hear about it. Tell these folks what you're playing.
Okay, I've been playing Yamaha now for 25 years, 25 plus years. I love the drums. They feel really good to me, and they sound incredible. They're very dependable. Even when I don't tour with my own kit, sometimes if I have to use a backline kit, if it's a Yamaha kit, it's gonna be cool. It sounds great, you know.
Hardware is unbeatable, man.
Yeah, exactly. And I've done, you know, some pretty long stints, tours, and the up and down, up and down, up and down can really wear some equipment out, you know. Their hardware is durable, and I like it, you know. So I'm doing Yamaha drums, and I must say, since the factory's moved to China, I'm not missing anything as far as like the new kits that I have that have come out of China sound just as good as the old Yamaha kits that I have. And so I'm really still very happy with the Yamaha drums.
You're doing mainly the maple shells?
I have just about every kit they make now.
Gotcha.
You know, so I'm playing a little bit of everything.
I remember the Beach. That was
the Beach Custom. Played those with Earth, Wind & Fire for a long time. Now I have the new Oaks, which sound amazing. And now I have the new recording customs too that sound amazing. I just did a tour last fall, fall before last, fall of 15, with Dreams Come True. Huge Japanese act, largest pop act in Japan, basically. And I had 2 recording custom kits on that gig. One on the main stage, it was in the round, and then I did my solo out on another riser, a remote riser. So I had 2 setups. So I'm really happy with the kits, man, the recording custom, you know. And I have, what I do now is I just order several different sizes of bass drums, and pretty much all the toms, and then I just put together configurations according to the gig I'm going to do.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I have some small 18s, like I did a tour with Pat Metheny. Bruce and I opened for Pat Metheny last summer, and it was just Bruce and I, a duet gig, where I used a real small kit, you know, all the special effects cymbals, a lot of percussion and stuff, and so I, you know, 18-inch kick drum is. So I just, when I order a kit now, I just get all the sizes and then just kind of configure it according to the actual gig that I'm doing.
What cymbals?
Zildjian, yeah, all types.
Forever.
You know, forever, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I still have my Paistes because I endorsed Paiste for a while. I still have some of the Sabians because I went Paiste first. Zildjian didn't want me initially, so I went to Paiste. Then from Paiste to Sabian, and then finally got the endorsement with Zildjian right before the first Earth, Wind & Fire tour.
You come up with those? Was that playing Zildjian when you were younger?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's all I played. You know, that's all I played. And then I was
finally got the prize.
Yeah, right.
That's a tough one, man.
Yeah, it's hard. And I was checking out Terry Bozzio too. So then and then Jeff. I was a big Jeff Porcaro fan, but Jeff back then was playing Paiste,
right?
And it sounded great. So, you know, when I couldn't get the deal with Zildjian initially, I went to Paiste and they signed me, and that was cool. So I still have some of those. Don't play them much. I may record them. I don't play them much out, you know. But Craigie and the gang at Zildjian, they've been so good to me, you know. So that's like a 25-year plus relationship too. And I remember distinctively one day I was doing a clinic up in the Boston area. John DeChristopher was the guy at Zildjian then, and he was like, "Hey man, I think Armand's gonna come." Sure enough, Armand came and sat right in front of me. He was like, "Are you kidding me? I wouldn't miss this." I was so honored, man, that he would take the time out of his schedule to come to my clinic, you know. And so that was a super honor for me, man, you know, to get a chance to just kind of hang with him. So I love those, you know. Been doing Zildjians for a while, and Remo drumheads since '85. Vic Firth drumsticks now. I did play Zildjian sticks for a little while to kind of help them launch the line.
Yeah.
But I just didn't like them as much as the Vics, you know.
Right.
For me personally. And then I'm doing Shure microphones, endorsing Shure mics, and still have an endorsement with, I'm speaking on one right now. And
yes,
then I have an endorsement with Meyer Sound Systems.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So now, nuts and bolts of the gear. Do you have a storage place here in town? Do you have one on the West Coast?
Yeah, I have some stuff out on the West Coast that I just leave out there, and then most of my gear is here in storage.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then a few things at home. But most of it's in storage here. The bigger cases and all that stuff. The touring, the big road cases.
Sure. Now, we're going to be remiss if we don't talk about your studio work as well.
Okay.
And let's kind of dovetail it in with gear too, because sometimes guys like to use slightly different gear in studio versus live.
Right.
Just to do a quick list of some of the higher profile or some of the sessions that people might be familiar with. You did some stuff back in the 80s with B-52s.
Right.
You did some stuff with those guys. Of course, you did one of the you did a Sanborn record, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also did work with Nile Rodgers quite a bit. Nile actually produced that B-52s album.
And Chic too,
and Chic,
right?
yeah. And at the same time, I was kind of doing Chic, some stuff for Chic.
Right.
And also some stuff for Diana Ross that Nile was all producing, all of that stuff.
Is there particular kits and or cymbals that you like to use that they're just like, man, this stuff is money on a session?
Yeah, I have the very first kit that Hagiwara sent to me. It was funny. Hagi was the drum guru at Yamaha, right? When I first signed, he didn't let me pick out a kit. He chose a kit for me, and he was like, trust me, 20, 25 years from now, it's gonna sound amazing, and it does. That wood, it was like the original recording custom. I had sunburst finished. That kit sounds so good, man. And I use that kit primarily on all of those recordings that you're talking about. The Joe Sample recordings. That's my go-to kit when I'm doing studio work. Basically, is the recording custom kit. I've recorded
that particular one.
Yeah, exactly. And I used on the Steely Dan 2 Against Nature project that I won a Grammy for. It was Record of the Year. I used an oak custom kit on it for those sessions too.
Any magic cymbals?
Yeah, I got some old K customs that I like. But I'm just kind of a hear it, kind of feel what the moment needs type of guy. You know what I mean? Like the B-52 sessions, I wanted something that was really, really brilliant and cutting. So I used some A's, bigger A's. Like the B-52 stuff, it was like 19s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Big, and then a big washy crash, 22-inch crash. I have a couple of, I'm really picky about the hi-hats too that I use sometimes. I'm in love with 13-inch hats, and I have a set of super dries that Craigie sent me, especially. I don't even think you can get them anymore. And I use them on the Drumeo video that I did, And all those cymbals on the Drumeo thing were mine. Okay. And so I love the hybrid series of the Zildjians. I got a ton of those in every size, and those really give me the best of both worlds. That gives me the brilliant thing, but they're not overbearing. They still have that warmth and body to them, that I like to get to. So
on the Steely Dan session, we were kind of going through some of that. A couple things. One, did you record a number of songs or?
Yep, that was quite an experience.
Yeah.
I came in there behind Vinnie Colaiuta, who came in behind Sterling Campbell. I mean, it was a slew of drummers that recorded.
There's about 4 or 5 drummers.
Keith Carlock,
Ricky Lawson's on that first track.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they recorded about 10 guys.
Yeah,
and a lot of them did multiple tunes.
We all did everything. We all played all of the songs. Dennis, I think. Yeah. By the way, I talked to him yesterday. But they flew me to New York and went to the studio and set up. And it was like really interesting how we recorded. We recorded all the songs as
your
a rhythm
drums
section. My drums, right. Me, Tom Barney, Donald Fagen's on piano. Walter was in the control room. He didn't play. We were just cutting basic tracks like that on every song. I was playing with some sequence stuff sometimes.
But you did cut it as a rhythm section.
Yeah, gotcha. Some of them.
Okay.
The first day, I was there for 3 days. Second day was broken up. we did maybe like just some groove stuff, no toms, just groove, hi-hat, kick, snare. That's all they wanted, right? We spent half a day maybe doing that. Then we went back. Now let's go back and just do some fills on all the songs, nothing but tom fills, And then third day was just like, okay, let's just kind of tighten up some things. So it was like really broken up. I didn't know what songs I was going to end up on, and the whole joke with them is if you made the record, it was good, obviously, you know what I mean? Yeah. But none of us knew who was going to end up on the album. So when the record came out and I decided I made the album, I was like, yeah, I made it, because to me, that was the biggest thing, is just getting on it, And so that was a real treat,
Just as a side note on that, did you get to know those guys a little bit?
Yeah.
Fagan and Beck? They're interesting fellas.
Donald was kind of just sitting over in the corner most of the time, just being really quiet. I mean, he started opening up like maybe the second day. We just started talking. He's a genius, man. He's a really laid back cat, very esoteric cat. Walter and I had more of, because Walter was actually the one producing the session. Yeah. All right, Sonny, let's try this. Right. And Donald was just kind of sitting there playing, But it was interesting how they record, man.
Were you given any reference prior
to what they wanted me to do?
Demos or anything like that?
Nothing.
Just went in cold.
Go in cold. We listened to the track. They had some demos, obviously. Listen to the demo. Walter would kind of give me an idea of kind of what he wanted. Some of the passes he'd be like, just play whatever you want, just have at it. And then maybe the next pass he'd be like, okay, now let's do this here, try this here. He got very specific sometimes, and then other times it was just like, just let's get a couple of more passes. He did, and we did maybe like 3 or 4 passes on every song. What
about sounds? Would they really hone in on a snare drum thing, or were they?
Yeah. I mean, Walter was more specific about that on different songs.
So what
like West of Hollywood, he wanted really tight,
Right.
Give me that really tight, kind of funky snare drum sound. So that's what ended up on West of Hollywood.
Speaking of that song.
Yeah.
I think the most entertaining thing about that record when it came out, it was a brilliant record, some great performance on that, and it was like Sonny's playing like an 8-minute song. He plays 2 fills the whole time. It's either Donald, either they have the greatest sense of humor, or more importantly, you have the discipline to do it. But it was just kind of a few of us were like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, man. That's all he wanted.
That's awesome.
I mean, one of the passes he wanted me to just kind of open up on.
Mm-hmm.
Another pass, he was like, now just
play time.
Yeah, just play me some time and do just a couple of fills when you feel it. I think one pass I didn't play any fills.
That's crazy. I love it.
You know what I mean?
You got to bring what they're asking, man.
For 4 minutes, you know what I mean? And they chop that stuff up and edit and put together the final product like they want to hear it, But when it came out, I was shocked that they went the more simple route on that. But you know what? When I listened to the song, because Chris Potter plays his behind off on that.
Amazing.
He is just killing it, And the dichotomy of what I'm doing versus what he's doing, it works to me because he's just like all over the place. And I'm just kind of cruising on the bottom of it, So it was a really interesting experience, And it was fun. It was fun to work with him.
That's cool, man. I mean, a dream for many of us, and you lived it.
Yep. And I could have, they asked me to do the tour, but I had a couple of conflicts prior to that. They asked me to do the tour, and it always would conflict with the Earth, Wind, and Fire thing. So I was never able to get that one, but I was like, man.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I know. And then Keith Carlock and I ended up
stuck with Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Keith Carlock.
Sonny, you need a hug, man.
Yeah, I do. Keith Carlock and I ended up on a clinic thing in Europe together, and we were flying back to the States together, man. And we just talked about it. I was like, hey, man, you know what? You are killing the gig, because I saw Keith on it. I was like, you're killing it, man. So, and he's a great guy,
Clearly been a good fit.
Yeah.
And man,
yeah.
Back to Maurice. Hey, this is
I was like, hey man, it's all good. If it's meant for me to ever do it, it'll come around, hopefully, or maybe not. You know what I mean? It's like I've had my time with them, and that's cool. It's like it was great.
Just as a quick side note, did you guys see where Fagan is taking a little quartet out on the road doing just like he's going to be here in town?
Oh yeah,
yeah. A bunch of dudes.
Is Keith doing that?
No, it's a bunch of guys that nobody has really heard of. He put a little band together up in Woodstock, New York.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and the guy that's playing drums, I think his name is Lee Falco. I think is his name.
I don't know him.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody.
He's
really
probably
knows
a
him.
killer though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would think.
You got to
so.
figure.
Yeah, but Fagan's going to do about 6 weeks of just pretty much his solo stuff and a few select Steely Dan tunes. That just came out. Yeah,
nice.
That's great, man.
That's what it is.
Also, Phil Collins is using his son on drums now. Yeah. I think he's like
Donald's
19. No, Phil Collins.
Oh, his own son.
Yeah, his own son.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Who's supposedly killing it.
Yeah.
I want to try to catch up with Phil and see. I want to see the show, man. I went up to D.C., man. Phil was so good. Phil and Chester, they hooked me up. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, they just did like a handful of dates, Northeastern dates, and D.C. was one of their dates. So I was like, look, I want to go. So I called Chester, and he's like, yeah, I'll hook it up. So I flew up to D.C., man, and Phil, they left tickets for me and all. And they were killing, man. It was awesome. And that was the last time, before Phil took that long hiatus that they played, So I was hoping when they got ready to go out this time that, maybe I would stand to get a call, because I was just like, because Chester was like, I don't think I'm going to do it anymore, And I was looking at Chester like, really? But he decided
really?
He decided to take his kid, which is cool. I completely understand it, So I want to try to catch that. I haven't heard anything about it other than, his kid was playing drums. So I don't know if he started the tour yet or, about to start, but that's going to be interesting too.
It will be. So one quick last question about studio stuff. Just in general, everybody has a preference when you're in the studio regarding what you like to hear in terms of like click and or sequences, or if you like a little loop or something. What do you prefer?
If there's a sequence that has been specifically designed and tailor-made for the song, I'd rather play to that. A lot of times cats play to the click, and they're playing to the click, but they're not acknowledging the feel of the song.
Right.
So that to me, that causes a little discrepancy in things. If you're playing to the click and you know what the feel of the song is supposed to be, it doesn't matter. I usually have the click in there, but it's a little under the sequence,
Gotcha.
And then I build the band mix in it. And then for me, it's the bass and then the keys next as far as the volume. The bass is the next loudest and then the keys below it. And then what other vocals are going on, I just kind of have that low in the mix for reference.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, Sonny, question for you here about, we're going to take two what we'd consider to be almost like diametrically opposed gigs, and I want you to tell our folks a little bit about what a typical gig day is like with them.
Okay.
So let's go back and let's contrast a typical gig day with Earth, Wind, and Fire, and then what's a typical gig day with Bette Midler like? In particular, how about this, man? I know that she does, or she's had some residencies like out in Vegas.
Yeah.
What's the difference in gig days on something like that?
If we're doing like a Vegas hit with Bette, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to being on a road?
Yeah. Well, and also like even opposed to like Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah, well, it's totally different. I mean, the Vegas thing was such an in-house thing. We just showed up to Caesars like, an hour before the hit, get dressed, go up, do the hit, which is an hour, So most of the day was my own day, just whatever I wanted to do.
No sound check?
No. I mean, no, with Bette, yes, we did, because we sound check every day. We have to be there like at 4:30, 5 o'clock. We'll do a sound check.
Would that be based on maybe her changing tunes up as much as?
No, not really. Sometimes it would be. Most of the time, no. Just that's protocol. The time. That's when she gets herself geared up.
Okay.
And that's why, because we were like, we have to sound check every day, Bette. Do we really have to do this? Because we're not really making any major changes. But her thing to us was like, look, this is the time that I get myself geared up and ready for the show. So yes, we have to do sound check. So we go do sound check, and everything we usually, if you're sitting in the same room, it's not a whole lot to change, And so basically the sound checks was basically about her.
Yeah.
Now, and then like I said, most of the day leading up to sound check time with Bet in a residency like that, my normal day is just to get up, go do my workouts, grab some food, just kind of chill before sound check time, Earth, Wind & Fire, we're usually traveling the night before the gig.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the bus, check into the hotel, maybe on a short run, maybe say if we gig the night before, we're usually off the stage by 11, on the road by midnight, pulling into the next town if it's not a really long drive by 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay, and then jump back into bed. I usually sleep to maybe, 11, 12.
Mm-hmm.
Get up, do my workouts, have lunch, grab something to eat. Sound check's usually at 4 o'clock. But with Earth, Wind & Fire, because it's a bigger type of situation, well, not really band member wise, but just production wise, a part of the sound check would be a technical check.
Yeah.
For all the special effects and all that stuff. And if Maurice had anything differently that he wanted to do musically, which was usually always something to throw a curve in it, we find out what that was, and we rehearse it with him, First part of sound check, Maurice would be out in the house. He'd be on the dials with the guy, making sure that the room was dialed in. And then latter half of sound check with Earth, Wind & Fire, he'd be on the stage with us. We play a song or two. Sometimes we never did play an Earth, Wind & Fire song. We jam on like some kind of standard or something, or we just start a groove. And Maurice would grab his kalimba. We just jam out. He make sure he was hearing everything, make sure everybody's hearing everything. And other than that, that was it. And then he'd call it.
So when he'd call audibles, like, I want to change this up, were you allowed to have notes up?
Yeah, you have to do whatever you need to do.
Right. Like
you just need to make sure that when it went down that night that you had it.
So would you make little charts?
Sometimes I was able to and we would rehearse it. It'd be like little changes, like let's put a kick right here, let's put a couple of kicks right here. I remember one time he threw the horns a real curve. They had to go, and they spent like the entire time making little charts.
Yeah.
But the entire time between the end of sound check and showtime, and I heard them over in the, they would go in the arena, they find like an empty dressing room, they'd be down practicing it, But a lot of times it was like, just easy enough stuff, but just enough that you would have to think about it. Yeah, exactly.
So, Sonny, what do you like to do when you're home, man?
Dude, I really enjoy just relaxing, I love recording. I do a lot of recording.
In your home?
Yeah. And I've been trying to establish this band and trying to get this band off the ground. So I'm spending a lot of my time songwriting and doing all the other administrative things. Like right now, I've been spending so much time. I have new management now. I have a new PR firm now. I have a new marketing agency, and then dealing also with everything that the label is requiring of the band, So that's a lot of administrative things that I have to do for myself right now because I can't afford to. I don't have a team to do that yet, So I enjoy just going out, hearing cats when I'm at home. I go down to Sweet Food Lounge every now and then, check cats out. I haven't gone out as much as I would like to lately, just because I've been busy. And I get home, I like to kind of hang with the kids and my wife, because they haven't seen me if I've been gone. So I don't like to come home and just hang out, right away. Spend a lot of time riding my bike. And just relaxing, playing some golf, swimming a lot, and just relaxing, basically.
Man, do you keep any kind of a steady practice routine right now?
Yeah, I try to sit down at least every day, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm at a point where a lot of times I'm not working on anything specifically. Like a few years ago, I went through this thing. Well, I was completely blown away by Horacio. So I wanted to really learn. And Lenny Castro and I, we were on a gig, and we were in Puerto Rico. I walked into this club, and there was 3 musicians over in the corner, conga and a couple of other instruments, tambourine. They were playing this rumba, man, and it felt so good to me. I was like, and Lenny was like, "Yep, see, I told you."
Yeah.
And we were just standing over in the corner, just grooving, man. So I was like, you know what? I got to learn that. So I came home, and I dove right into the rumba clave, 2/3 clave. So I spent a lot of time getting that worked up, but that was something specific that I wanted to work on. So most of my practice sessions then were geared towards that. But now I'm just kind of in this free thing. I told you earlier, I'm still working on the fluidity of connecting the dots between, just trying to really make my solo really, really fluid, with fresh ideas constantly,
Not falling back on.
Yeah, not just playing the same old cliche thing over and over again, just trying to break the mold of what I do myself, so.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask it.
Do it.
All right. What would you tell your 20-year-old self at this point?
Wow. That the most important thing to do on any of these gigs is to honor, first of all, find out what the artist wants. Find out what they require. And then do your best to be as professional as you can to deliver that, regardless of how you feel emotionally about it. A lot of young players get tied into the emotion of it. If it's not something that they want to do, oh man, I don't want to do this. I hate this gig. But look, dude, you're not there for you. You were there. You've been hired by the artist. So I would tell myself, that specific thing, man. Just don't, be professional about it, because you've been hired to provide a service, basically,
Get out of your own way.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to do something, if you have a burning desire to be creative, then do your own thing.
Now's the time.
Yeah.
20-year-old.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
exactly. And that would be another thing. I don't know if you guys remember. You guys remember Chad, right? You know Chad. Chad grew up here. He's a twin, right? But Chad is he much younger than I was. He came up behind me here in Atlanta. I met him, he and his brother, when they were I think in the 6th grade. Phenomenal little musicians, right? But they grew up, they now are in LA. Chad plays with the Jacksons, playing with several smooth jazz artists. And I told Chad just the other day, I was in Florida playing a gig with Everett Harp, Jeff Lorber, and Chuck Loeb. I said, hey man, because he was standing right behind me at soundcheck. I said, whatever you want to do for yourself creatively, start right now. Start right now, because before you know it, you're going to be 40 and the industry is probably going to change again. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Responsibilities are going to pile on.
Your life is going to change. Mm-hmm. So whatever it is you want to do creatively, start doing it right now, so that you can realize it by the time you get older. You can be doing it.
Good stuff.
As opposed to waiting until you 50, 55 years old to start doing something.
Yeah, sometimes in that point in your life,
you're inundated with other life things that take precedence. I mean, it's like you can't have a family and just forget about your family to go and be this rock star.
Well, it's easy too when you're just trying to grind to get out there and all that, but to lose sight of the fact that now's a good time.
Exactly.
You don't realize it because you're just focused on this and that,
and you have the physical stamina to do it.
Right. You can move wherever you want.
Exactly.
Now's the time.
Exactly.
That's great.
So that's what I would say.
Sonny, we're about to power this thing down, man. You've been very gracious, but I wanted to ask you, man, is there anything else you want to talk about, or do you have anything else you want to promote?
I just want to promote the band, man. I'm gonna be also doing sessions. I'm gonna do some posts. I'm gonna be available to do sessions remotely for people who are looking for drum tracks and that kind of stuff. Quality drum tracks. And
you got set up at the house?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And so, and I've done, I did half of Bruce's last album from my house, So, and I've done stuff for Rittenauer and several other major artists from the house. But other than that, that's it. The band is my main focus right now. So look for Cachet, featuring Sonny Emory.
October 10th.
The name of the album is Love is the Greatest.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be pushing, we'll be playing around town here. And I'm also going to be doing some gigging, just Sonny Emory with my little kind of fusion ensemble. And I think the next thing that we're going to do is going to be a thing at the Vista Room again. We'll play back in December. And that was cool.
I was sick as a dog that night. I was actually off.
Really? Yeah.
On a Saturday in December.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I couldn't get out of bed. Man. It was misery.
We talked about this with John, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
When we were in here about trying to get down there.
We were all going to hook up down there. And
oh, yeah? Okay.
Just a mess.
Yeah.
But it was a good gig, man. We had about 350 people come out, so we had a great turnout, So we're going to be doing it again. I also want the drumming community, man, to pray for John Blackwell. Dennis called me yesterday, and John is not doing well, and I just want to keep him in our prayers. And I'm gonna try to pull something together here to do at the Vista Room, some kind of benefit to help John and his family through this trying time. So we'd like for all of you guys to come out and to support that. I'll get back to you.
Yeah,
We'll definitely, man. We'll promote that.
Yeah,
no questions. Yeah.
And so that's something that's kind of really near and dear to my heart. I want to make sure that we do that for John.
Sonny, before I forget, also, since you're such a big advocate for education, are you doing any teaching?
I haven't been doing any teaching lately because I've just been really busy with Bruce and the band, just trying to get this. So I'm probably going to open that back up maybe the latter part of summer this year.
Gotcha.
Once I'm done with the record label and all that stuff, I'll get back to being normal Sonny again. So.
And I suppose clinics will probably come along with that as well.
Definitely
at that time.
Definitely, most
Good
definitely,
deal. Now, Sonny, before we let you go,
mm-hmm.
we got a little surprise for you.
Uh-oh.
At the end of all of our shows, we like to do what we call the Drummers Weekly Groove Cast Rorschach test. And basically what it is...
This is for interviews.
Yeah, this is for our interviews. And what we like to do is we like to take about 1 minute and ask you some really quick hit questions. A lot of times it's just yes or no. It's a preference thing. I might say, hey, man, Coke or Pepsi? And you would go Coke or whatever, right?
All right.
So there is no right or wrong, and everyone has knocked it out of the park.
Okay.
So the important thing on this is don't think too much, man. Just whatever comes off the top of your head is cool.
All right, cool.
John, are you ready?
You're asking the questions, man.
All right, here we go.
Bothering me.
Starting the clock. Wood tip or nylon tip?
Wood.
Stacks or Motown?
Both.
What? In-ear monitors or wedges?
In-ears.
When you're on tour, bus or plane?
Bus.
PC or Mac?
Mac.
Barbecue, pork or beef?
Both.
Woo. Elvin or Tony?
Both.
Come on, man.
We got to put you on the spot here. Come on.
Live playing, click track or nothing?
Nothing.
What's your favorite cymbal?
20-inch ride.
Snare drum, wood or metal?
Sonny Emory signature wood drum.
Spoken like a true endorser. What's your favorite TV show right now?
Ooh, I don't watch a whole lot of TV. I'll have to say probably Breaking Bad. It's not on now.
Excellent choice. Think about it. This is a thinker right here. Double paradiddle or paradiddle diddle?
Paradiddle diddle.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, think about this one for a second. Freddie White
mm-hmm.
with Earth, Wind, and Fire or with Donny Hathaway?
Freddie White with Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Who's your favorite drumming showman?
Oh, Cozy Cole.
Excellent.
No, Sonny Payne. Both of them.
All right.
Yeah.
Phone calls or text messages?
Phone calls.
Sonny
Call
Payne.
me. Talk to me.
Yeah.
Sonny Payne. Sorry.
Cobham
like him.
or Chambers?
Oh, man. Both.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Vintage gear or new gear?
Vintage.
Last question, money question. If you could take a lesson from anyone, living or dead, who would it be?
Steve Gadd.
Living. That's Sonny Emory, folks.
That is awesome stuff.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man.
Sonny,
for your
thank you,
time.
man. We really appreciate you coming out.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure, man. It was an honor to be here. Thank you.
It's been great. John, is it too early for me to say it's my favorite episode we've done?
No, never. I actually believe him.
Oh, cool.
Because he says that every time. I'm kind of buying into my vibe saying, maybe it is.
No, it was
man.
awesome, man.
Well,
thank you so
man.
much, brother.
Thanks for
coming
having
out.
me, man. I appreciate it.
All right.
Yep.
All right, folks. Until next week, it's Phil, John, and Sonny. Say bye to him, Sonny.
I'd like to say goodbye to the Groovecast Nation.
Oh, that's excellent.
Peace.
We'll see you all next week. All
Love
right?
you guys.
All right.
Good night.
Bye-bye. How about that Sonny Emory, guys? Yes, sir. John and I were very fortunate to be able to spend a few hours with him here, and he was more than gracious and completely and totally open to anything we wanted to talk to. And there's nothing quite like hearing these stories about life on the road with some of these great artists that he's played with. I mean, it's good stuff. You can't get it anywhere but here. We really appreciate it. Thanks again, Sonny, for coming out, and we will keep all of our listeners apprised of Sonny's upcoming project releases, including, if you remember at the end of the show, he talks about a benefit that he is organizing for John Blackwell. We'll let everyone know as well information about the upcoming date and the festivities that are going to be involved with that. All right. Folks, as always, we appreciate you staying in touch with us. You can always email us at our Gmail account, which is drummersweeklygroovecast@gmail.com. We have a couple of outlets on social media that you can interact with us with. You can catch us on Facebook, facebook.com/drummersweeklygroovecast, and on Twitter, you can reach us at twitter.com/DWGroovecast, or just an @mention DWGroovecast. As always, we publish a new show every Monday. We're available on iTunes, Google Play Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, Player FM, virtually every platform that you can think of, and your favorite podcast app that you have on your phone or iPod. So just subscribe today. New shows, again, every Monday. All right, folks, one last thing. Even though our contest is over, please go by iTunes when you have a minute and leave us a written review on iTunes. It certainly helps us out. Just navigate your way over to iTunes, find the Drummers Weekly Groovecast homepage on there, and leave a short written review. We'd be very, very grateful. All right, let's listen to Sonny, and we'll see you next week.